From Bloomberg, China discusses sale of TikTok U.S. to Musk.
Wow.
Is one possible option. But wait, TikTok denies report.
Yeah.
They call the report that China is exploring sale of app to Elon Musk pure fiction. I think TikTok should be banned. I think that what was happening was TikTok was largely banning conservatives. We have no control over it. So conservatives wanted to get rid of it. So TikTok switched and started allowing conservatives. And then all of a sudden Trump's like, we did really well, so we're going to keep it now. And I'm like, yeah, and the moment you keep it, they're going to turn on you to get you impeached and removed from power. I don't like the deep state controlling social media, but at least there's some recourse in investigations and FOIA requests. I'm not a fan of TikTok. I think they should divest from any foreign partners.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, look,
So
I
you're
think
saying you're not a fan of TikTok as currently constituted?
Yeah, if TikTok divested, totally fine. I think
look,
they're censorious and bad, but they're allowed to operate so long as we're not at risk nationally.
if TikTok is preferential to shutting down as opposed to selling, I think that speaks to what the actual function of TikTok is. I think that it's likely an intelligence gathering op by the Chinese, by the CCP, more than anything else. And so I honestly, like, normally I'm just like, let companies exist, but I do think that there's a national security issue because of the fact that it's not just about who has it, or if someone in a position of authority has it, but their family. If you're you work for Boeing or you work for Lockheed Martin and your kid has TikTok, they could be accessing your kid's information and stuff. People aren't. I think the average person isn't aware of how much information you can glean with an app that has access to the entirety of a cell phone that's in someone's home like that.
But I guess devil's advocate on that is, couldn't you say the same thing about U.S. apps and the U.S. national security agencies?
I agree.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the fact of the matter is U.S. apps are the Chinese using them for espionage against the United States is not the same thing. Not that the U.S.
No. I'm not saying they're not. What I'm saying is, though, couldn't you also apply that to
Yes.
U.S. intel agencies conducting espionage against our own citizens?
Yes, but the United States isn't going to outlaw apps when they're using them. Like, this is if you're talking.
No, of course not.
If you're talking,
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
talking about like China versus the U.S., like, I mean, I think that the government shouldn't be doing that either. But the question isn't will the government stop or how do we get the government to stop? The question is TikTok an espionage tool for a foreign entity? And I think it is. So, and yeah, I mean, look, if I could go ahead and wave a magic wand and make sure that the government doesn't use any apps to track people and stuff like that, I'd do it in a second. But I don't have that power.
I don't know. I just think it's more complicated. I mean, even if they sell it to some American, it's like, well, what happens if that American just so happens to be, a guy who's here based on, birthright citizenship and his parents are Chinese?
Yep, there's still espionage laws.
And so, yeah, there's still espionage laws for sure. But again, like, espionage is a very
This
specific...
is just the argument of the perfect being the enemy of the good.
Yes, but at least we have FOIA requests and we have some recourse via lawsuits in the United States.
No. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done. I guess I'm just saying that if we think that, they've divested and the problem's gone away and, you can just go and use your phone to your heart's content again. Like, no, like that's not a thing. So anytime, like John McAfee used to talk about this, privacy does not exist. If you are using one of these things, you think, I'm encrypted, I'm good. No, they are looking over your shoulder.
100%.
They can pull whatever they want. And yeah, like maybe it's harder for the CCP to get in, but that doesn't mean that, that the agency and the feds can't get in whenever they want. Just, you don't believe me? Go ask any Gen 6 or anyone who served in the Trump administration that actually supported the agenda.
The debate here is the American government always good? Because the American government is not always good. That's not even that's not the question at hand. The question at hand is: should the American government allow a foreign country to operate what is likely a spy tool in America without any kind of should they allow it to operate? That's the question.
Have you heard the conspiracy theory on this? So the conspiracy theory on this was that who's had like the most dominant TikTok trends over the last 6 months? Like politically speaking, it's all been Donald Trump related, right? So the YMCA Trump dance, or obviously like the Trump hat, or the eating the cats, eating the dogs became like the #1 song. So the conspiracy theory is that like TikTok realized that through their algorithms that Trump was going to win, so they switched themselves to look like they were pro-Trump, so that they would be able to get the influence to say no, don't ban us now.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
We're pro you.
And the moment Trump backs off, they go crush him. Don't let him win ever again.
Well, I mean, not even if it doesn't even matter if that's the goal to crush Trump. The fact of the matter is they want to continue. If you take the idea that TikTok is an espionage tool, all they want is to keep operating in the U.S. That's the goal. So if they have Donald Trump that has a positive opinion of them, then maybe they have a better chance of continuing to operate TikTok in the United States.
Sure, but
it doesn't matter if they like Trump or not. I don't even think they care. I don't think they matter. They care. I don't think it matters who it is. It's a matter of who's going to allow them to continue to operate, so they can continue to have this tool in the U.S.
So you're saying total ban?
I mean, I think if they divest and an American company takes over and they don't have the servers are no longer run by ByteDance, the servers are in the U.S., I don't really have a problem with it.
But yeah, I mean, but I guess what I'm saying is you could easily construct, not easily, but you could construct a more perhaps classical espionage structure with shell corporations.
Yeah, but Jack, you know the vast majority.
Like they could get they could still get
but the point that I'm making, well, first of all, it doesn't have the psychological effect if they just have hardware, right? So everybody knows, or everybody is generally of the opinion that most of the hardware that comes from China has some kind of backdoor that the CCP could access if they wanted to.
Like literally all of our hardware.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
like
that's
if they cared
not
so much. Why do we still buy all their drones?
That's not because we can't make drones in the U.S. because the government's stupid.
Ridiculous.
Because the FAA is stupid.
Wait, so now you're getting to what I was talking about. Is that it's basically, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. What I'm saying is that this is a much more complex problem than just like, we signed it over to Elon Musk and we're good to go. Like,
no, the point that I'm making is TikTok can operate as a psychological tool. Your computer hardware that they can get into, it's not the same thing. They're not going to be adjusting the algorithm to mess with people's head when they can just track your keystrokes.
So that's what they said about the Romania election, right? So that's why. So Romania had their presidential election a couple of months ago, and this just out of right field candidate won, who was super anti-NATO, anti-EU, and they came in and said, Russia manipulated TikTok so much that he was able to swung the election, and they did so through an influence operation, like you're saying. So the Supreme Court of Romania came in and annulled the election and took away actual people voted in Romania for this guy.
Wow.
And they came in and they went for it. And they said, so this is where, I mean, this is kind of like an almost, more of a larger social question is, well, okay, wait a minute. So just because they had this influence, people still voted, and that the Supreme Court annulled the election based on TikTok.
DARPA had a program, I think in 2011, about how they could influence people through social media influencers, because they could see people like they were drones, So like all these apps are working against you.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
Our government is an enemy, in my opinion, a foreign enemy, and they've taken over, and they're completely infiltrated all the social media. And I wonder how many influencers have marched out of DARPA, for both sides of the party.
Influencers?
Oh, for sure. I think there's a ton of people who are totally just propped up, like Mockingbird style,
and they wouldn't know.
They've been doing Mockingbird for decades.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, right?
You wouldn't know.
So
you wouldn't know at all.
It's actually real simple. I don't know if you guys know this, but we ran an ad on Sam Cedars' channel making fun of him, so that people who watched Majority Report would see us. It was like, what was it? Me, Seamus, and you, Phil. Yep. And we were like, so this is what we did. We made a video where
he called me a political hitman once.
Oh, that's
not bad.
It's not bad, right? It's not bad.
So the video started with me saying something like, "No, actually, I think. Wait a minute." You're not going to watch this guy's video, are you? Nah, you don't want to watch him. Come watch us instead. And it was like, I was like, we don't want to be mean or disparaging. It's more meant to be like a prank and funny. And he's getting money for it.
Right.
And so I had that commercial run on his channel. But what that means, it means I paid him.
So you paid him, yeah.
That's right. You can go on YouTube, on Google Ads, and pay any creator to run ads on their content. You can choose their channel and you can say, I want this amount of money and this amount of ads to appear on this channel. So as it goes, one way to launder and prop up a personality who's not good is to make sure their ad inventory is 100% sold. You're not making them big. You're making sure that if they get views, they get the maximum amount of money for those views. It's a way to pay people who have a message you like. So if you're a foreign government or even the U.S. government, the U.S. government can buy ads like liminally, subliminally, and superliminally.
Hey, you!
That's right. Join the Navy. They can, all the Simpsons references. The Navy can literally run ads on your channel. And the government be like, what's our ad budget? Buy ads on that channel. Or they can run a shell corporation through intelligence that runs ads on your channel. And then you're sitting there being like, dude, I make tons of money on YouTube. And that makes sure you can survive, expand, and grow. And here's the best part. You can target videos. So they can make sure that certain videos generate more money than other videos. Then what happens? YouTube creator makes a video about Israel, makes a bunch of money. They say, oh, wow, when I do videos on Israel, I make a lot of money. You can easily control what people are going to talk about based on view counts, likes, and their revenue streams. So there are probably a lot of personalities who are propped up and they don't even know it.
I can give you an example off the top of my head because I looked this up. Do you remember like a couple of years ago, I guess, I was talking about this phenomenon of the hick lib, and it was it was like this sort of Kevin Costner and Yellowstoning, which by the way, totally vindicated on with the final episode where they tore down Yellowstone Ranch,
gave it to the Native Americans,
and they're kicking over the graves, and everything. They're like, no, put it back up. They're like, I'm gonna kick it down anyway, elder, and. So I was talking about this thing called the hick lib phenomenon, where it was like someone who has sort of the aesthetics, if you will, of a sort of Midwestern conservative type guy, but then has these like very liberal, extreme social justice reactions. And so I was digging into this in 2023, and I had this guy. It was called Bo of the Fifth Column. He, him. And so he does this like gun channel, and kind of one of the, I guess I call them gun tubers, and it was like, okay, he's got the beard, he's got the hat, like he kind of looks like, he sort of just looks like the kind of guy who would, who you'd watch one of these channels, and that would be it. And then every once in a while, he would throw something in there about like trans acceptance or like, just name your SJW type topic, and it would go throw in. But then here's where it got took a darker turn, because the Los Angeles Times actually reported on this, and I saved the article. It said after the January 6th Capitol insurrection.
Good grief.
Tech companies began experimenting with and came under increasing pressure from the U.S. government to prevent the spread of extremism on their platforms. So an internet figure named Bo of the Fifth Column became one of the beneficiaries of this, because listen to this. The idea was bait and switch. The LA Times. Give people searching online for terms like join the Oath Keepers or, quote, bomb instructions some content that seemed to fit their request, but instead offered an alternative. The method developed by what's called Moonshot CVE is called the redirect. Through partnerships with Google as well as the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, the British firm's goal was to dissuade users from pursuing conspiracies and violent rhetoric by luring them with advertisements to other sites. And so I'm like, okay, the ADL was involved in this, as well as something called Moonshot CVE. I'm like, what's a British firm? So I'm like, let me go look up this Moonshot CVE and figure out what that is. And so they're astroturfing this hick lib identity. And what's interesting about the British government is that they actually have pretty good records on who they give their funding to. And they're nonprofits, basically, because they all have to be registered. So it's like, okay, here's Moonshot CVE, Countering Violent Extremism, moonshotteam.com, London, United Kingdom. And this is the best part, because wait a minute, where did the money come from? Yes, it's a British firm, but the money came from the United States State Department.
Wow.
$3.6 million. And this was just the one donation that we've got, like the sub-grant and all of it. So wait a minute. In the LA Times, they refer to it as a British firm, but it was a British firm funded by the U.S. State Department to go through into Google and say, oh, we're fighting hate by propping up this guy, which directly sends you to his... And by the way...
Welcome to the Five Eyes Spy Club.
He may not have known at all. He might have no idea. And by the way, there's like actually a bunch of other stuff because apparently the guy was like a convicted felon and had been involved in like human trafficking and a bunch of other stuff, which is like really messed up and clearly. And that they didn't realize that either. So that was one of the reasons that the LA Times was reporting on it. But what they uncovered was this massive web of your money that was being spread around, just like what you're talking about, Tim, and just like what you're talking about, that props up certain people on YouTube or other functions. And Google says, hey, we're just fighting hate. We're fighting extremism. And yet you're propping up certain content like the Hitler.
I think it's only going to get worse.
And it's only going to
moving
get worse.
forward.
Yeah.
It's going to get way worse, and people are going to. It's like they're luring people into invisible like re-education camps. They don't even know they're.
Yeah, you don't
getting
even
into
know,
this.
right? So that's the thing. They won't even need to send us to re-education camps because you'll go to YouTube and you'll just look up something like how to reconstruct an AR lower, and they'll send you to one of these things, and then the guy just every once in a while mentions something liberal, mentions something social justice, mentions something oh, and you got to believe in evolution, and it just and
I think
go back to
they're going to
the
try
right part
really
of it.
hard to subvert the subverters.
Exactly.
Right? Like they know the podcast world is now ruling, right? Like Trump used podcasts.
Yes.
And the mainstream
Podcasts will be the next target.
That's their target. And it's probably been like that for years, but it's going to get way worse now because they realize that's where the audience is. So they're going to sprinkle in their narratives to try to pacify dissident voices.
Well, you're already seeing that a little bit with the woke light phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
That these guys who pop up, and it's typically these former liberals, and I don't feel like naming names.
Current liberals.
And right. They're always like, I'm a former liberal, but a classic liberal. And they come over and they say, I'm against trans, but like that's about it. And like I'm with them on every single other thing. And then they immediately start gatekeeping the right and gatekeeping dissidents and gatekeeping populists and say, you can't believe that. You can't talk about that issue. You can't do that. And that's why I call them the woke light.
And the exact same way the woke do it.
The exact same.
So that's why I describe wokeness as the cult-like adherence to the liberal orthodoxy.
Yes.
What the woke light are doing, these are disaffected liberals that are still liberal, and they're saying, those liberals are bad. We're the true liberals. Be like us. And if you're not, you're the woke right. And the woke right phenomenon is basically the same as calling someone alt-right. It's a meaningless term that basically says you are our enemy. So it's funny when these guys are like the woke right. I'm like, you are the woke right.
You're acting woke. You're woke light.
But I call them woke right because they're the right side of the left side.
So I started.
So they're still on the left.
So I started.
But I like what you're saying.
I was doing the same thing at first, but then the waters were too muddied because people were like, "Wait, what are you talking about? I couldn't figure this out." So it just explain it. Woke light, LIT. Also, if you prefer, diet woke. It's
pretty good.
Credit to Malcolm Flex for that one.
Diet woke. That's a
diet
good one.
woke. But
these guys are like, the woke are crazy, and we are the true liberals. You should be like us.
Hello,
Heck,
fellow
so-
kids. Yeah.
And then they say, like, we had on the members only show, we got into this because I was like, someone asked James Lindsay what is an example of the woke right, and he said Orrin McIntyre, and I was like, what? How he's like a post-liberal? I don't know. I don't know his exact political positions, but it's like America first, immigration critical. What does it have to do with the people who hate Jews? When he starts lumping in this, like, the people who believe the Jews control everything with people who like Christianity and believe in nationalism and Tucker Carlson, I'm like, you're basically just saying anybody who's on the right is woke right. That sounds like you're saying alt-right. It's just a meaningless term. Mm-hmm. If you're not adhering to their standard, you're woke right.
But what it is in in direct fashion is what they're doing is creating a category, creating a label, saying we're separate from these guys, therefore you. And a lot of these guys, I remember, like, they were one of the big pieces of this you saw was also when Tucker went to interview Putin, and then he also interviewed Lavrov. Now, which, by the way, at great personal risk to himself. Like there were a number of security incidents that took place when he did this, and Ukraine's got assassination teams all over Russia, by the way, and of course Tucker Carlson would be a main target and certainly was targeted. And so the idea that he was just doing it for like clicks or something, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. He's doing his job. But they were saying, oh, this guy is look at him, he's woke right for just accepting what Putin says, and it's like, for interviewing him, like it's so ridiculous. And the real thing that I got to, and people are going after like Benny Johnson for platforming. You can't platform. I'm sorry.
How dare you talk to Andrew Tate? Those
are woke style attacks. Those are woke style arguments. You are acting like the woke light. By the way, and if you want to criticize something that someone said or something that someone did, then just do that. Then just do that. But be a man and actually have the ability to hold that debate and hold that criticism, because that's the problem of what caused all of these issues. That's how you get to the LA wildfires burning down, and nobody can actually find out whose job it was to keep water in the reservoir during fire season.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.